Hello and welcome to Brief Encounters. Our guest today is Samriddhi Upadhyaya, a seasoned immigration attorney licensed in New York with a remarkable legal journey that spans both India and the United States. She holds a foundational law degree from the Government Law College, Mumbai, and pursued her Masters of Law at Fordham University, USA. She further specialized in intellectual property and securities law through advanced postgraduate diplomas from NLSIU. Currently serving as a senior associate attorney at Stelmakh and Associates, she brings over a decade of experience across top firms like Fragomen, Pryor Cashman, and others. Her expertise covers complex US immigration matters, corporate governance, and legal compliance. With a dynamic career rooted in both corporate and immigration law, she continues to make impactful contributions to the legal landscape. We're thrilled to have her here to share her transnational perspective and invaluable insights. Hello and welcome to Brief Encounters. It is quite an honor having you here with us today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, Riya, so much for having me here.
Thank you. So now this is a question that we ask most of our guests, and I'm always looking forward to the unique answers and the experiences. How did your journey in law begin? Was becoming a lawyer always your passion, or did the interest develop over time?
So I come from a family of doctors who have, and not even in extended families, I think there are any lawyers. But the journey to law might have been, so I was a science student, gave my medical entrance and everything. But eventually, while I was studying medical, like studying for medical entrance as well, I was not sure whether medical is something that I'll be doing. It was at some point in time, UPSC or civil services exams. And then I was like, why am I spending this much years in medical education if eventually I want to be in civil services? Why not learn something which is maybe aligns? And that's when law popped up. And that was, I think it is around 2005-06. That is when the 5-year law courses had started coming up a little more frequently. And I found one. CLAT, that was I think either first year or second year of CLAT happening. And because I was a science student, I had no idea what CLAT universe is. So I just started searching for nearby colleges that had 5-year courses. 𝗵𝗵𝗶𝗃𝗃 College of Law first came and I applied there, and I studied so hard in my first year. I don't think I studied hard for the next 4 years after I got transferred to GLC from 𝗵𝗵𝗶𝗃 in a second year level. And that's when, and then the more I studied law, I was like, no, not civil services. I think this is what I want to do. And that's how it honestly started.
Wow. So it was quite by chance, you would say. It was in a way connected, but also in a chance of law. So was it the right decision in the end, not going for civil services and sticking to law?
Yeah, definitely. At this point, now that I have been with this profession for this many years, 10, 15 years at this point, I think this was the right decision given the personality that I have, and I think that's better. And GLC was just, I mean, the change from the civil services to law actually happened more. The more time I spent at GLC made me make that switch, because you're surrounded by people who are so passionately doing this, not just the students, the professors, the nearby high court people coming in, people are interning, which that is when I'm like, okay, it is interesting and this is what I want to continue. So.
That's always great to hear. And I've heard about GLC. It's literally one of the best law colleges out there. So speaking about GLC, you've completed your law degree from there. How was your experience over there? How did you enjoy? I'm assuming you did quite a lot, as you've mentioned, but how was your experience?
Yeah, definitely. Entering into GLC was the turning point in my career. The switch and the vision that I got for my own legal career was because of GLC. And GLC has its own, charm. You don't go by the buildings, don't go by how big the canteen is or whatever, but just the charm of the college itself was enough for me to think about pursuing this career rather than anything else. And GLC also had this, well, you definitely have your syllabus, you are going through your classes and everything, right? But there were these professors, amazing Professor 𝗃𝗶𝗃𝗃. I don't know if he's alive, and there's a big shout out to him. And I'm sure if there are students of GLC there are listening to me and echoing. I don't think I was in the same division that Professor 𝗃𝗃𝗃 taught, but the charm was such that everybody at 7 a.m. in the morning, the college starts late, but Professor 𝗃𝗶𝗴𝘁𝗁's lectures are different. So we go there, we sit, we chat, and he was very inspiring. He taught contract law at that point, and I think still, if he is still teaching there, it was an eye-opener of what kind of litigations we are seeing. And he's not the one who's going by the book. He's telling you all examples, relating it with the real world. It was an amazing experience. And as I said, I did not have family where lawyers were there. So these conversations actually started in GLC. And that is where I think GLC played a very important role in my legal career and transitioning into the choice of being a lawyer rather than anything else.
Wow. I feel like sometimes teachers make such a huge impact. So it's so important that colleges have great teachers, great luminaries who can pave the path for your legal journey. And it's quite inspiring to hear how much of an impact he played in your legal journey. So moving on to LL.M, which is what our podcast is mainly about, your decision to pursue and wasn't driven by the typical factors that we often hear about. Can you share what influenced your decision and how your circumstances shaped your journey?
Yeah, sure. So GLC happened, graduating happened. I then joined as an in-house legal counsel for a very great media conglomerate around India, Times of India. And it was a very enriching experience. I think I started when I was still studying, like interning with them, and then I landed up a job with them. So it was amazing journey with them. So after 3-4 years, I think within the team, I started thinking about maybe I should pursue some kind of a master's, maybe from UK, US. I was not sure. Still, like in a very, not applying, not even, just trying to read more so than anything else, just trying to read what exactly it entails. And just about that time, I got engaged to be married to somebody who was in India at that point when I got engaged to be married. But the moment, I think a few months after we met, he got assigned for a project in US, and we were planning to get married 1 year after that. So this LLM thing was already there in my mind. So I was like, maybe I should come over and figure it out how, with entering into the country and then figuring out how I want to apply, what is the situation. And that's when I started exploring more about it. Honestly, you're right. This is not the conventional approach. It just happened to me, and I don't know whether this happens to many people, but yeah, that is where we are, and that is how the thought of LLM started. While after I entered US.
Understandable. So securing an H-1B visa is a game changer for many professionals. What was the process like for you, and how did it influence your choice to pursue a part-time LLM instead of a full-time one?
So first and foremost, when I entered the country, and I'm again talking about 2012 to 2013, not many students, maybe now they know it's not very easy to finish the LLM and then get into H-1B. At that point in time, maybe it was my naivety or my lack of research. As I said, I was just like checking what is needed. And I was like, when I entered in here, I understood that, fine, H-1B is this. H-1B goes through lottery, and there are more than 5 times people applying as to the number of visas that are available. So the first few months were like, what did I sign up for? What am I doing? And most likely between myself, I was like, if I do not either get into a good project or find an H-1B, let's just take this 1 year as like exploring US and then let's go back. That was our dream. So it was quite a shocker for me what H-1B was. Now it is ironical that I'm practicing immigration law, but back in 2012, 2013, I did not have that much idea. And then it was just relentless applying for jobs. And people who are here already, your students, if they are listening, they would know that whenever you apply a job in US, there are questions about, you need a sponsorship. Will you need a sponsorship? And you would always answer yes. And the moment you answer yes, I don't know what happens internally, but that was a difficult couple of months. I would not say that I was struggling for years. This was maybe 3-4 months and I was trying. But luckily, I got into I found an employer who I was writing randomly. Initially, I started writing to all the big people, all the big corporations, sending my applications through the way of their career portal. But then I started finding everybody near me, wherever I was located, and started emailing them directly, like whether there was an opening or not. I'd be like, this is where I am. This is what experience I have. Maybe I don't know what the US law that you're practicing, but I have legal writing skills. I have research skills. So you can use me. Let me know if there's a law clerk position. Like, I know that you cannot practice as an attorney because, of course, the students know the LLM, the New York bar, the many things. So that's how actually I landed up my job, where it was a boutique immigration law firm. And ironically, H-1B is a very busy season for any immigration law firm, and they needed resources. I was right there. They were like, fine, we'll sponsor you. And if you are willing to do what is needed, we will sponsor your visa. And luckily I got selected in the lottery at the first try. The employment began, and that's how I started my work first. I planned LLM, but first I started my job and then figured it out. Yeah.
Wow. So it was almost like you played a chance on law, life took a chance on you with the US, H1B and everything. That's quite brilliant to know, though.
So I'm also quite optimistic in taking these leaps in my life, not very advisable. Initially, it's very chaotic. And when I say that I'm optimistic, people closer to me will tell you, no, there are times that she's not. So, but eventually I feel that the universe also takes you to the direction where you have to be, and just keep giving that effort. Sometimes it seems as though this is an impossible feat, and maybe it is. And if it doesn't work out, maybe that's what the universe wants. But if it does, then you never know.
Sure, for sure. I mean, besides, of course, the chance part, you have mentioned how you were sending out mails to individuals and
Yeah.
you were sending out mails to people close to you. That would have taken a lot of work, and the hustling would have been for sure huge. And yet, managing to secure an opportunity, then do a part-time LLM, it's quite brilliant. Your journey has been quite inspiring for sure.
Thank you so much. But I have to say that when I came in, my husband was already like in a project, and I mean, students have a lot of other responsibilities, making sure that they find a room, find a like all the other arrangements to live in a different country altogether without a family help. So that was not. I was already in a position where it was secured for me. So when I say that I was able to positively do it, it was because of this back-end security in my mind. But there were a lot of professionals. I met people through multiple channels, and I was like, listen, this is what I am. What do I do? And no law firms are responding. And I remember he was at a very high level in a JP Morgan at New York. And he said, you never know, these boutique law firms are also doing great work. Why not reach out to them and just mail? And somebody told me, and I just started acting on it. And the more I acted, the more response I got.
That's nice. So now you can be the flag bearer for all the other students. That's what you're doing through the help that you will be providing to the students who are now coming in. And I'm sure they won't face as many difficulties as you did when it was just starting out. That's great to know. So even for a part-time LLM, which isn't as conventional, you must have considered a few options. So what factors finally led you to finalize Fordham?
So Fordham, most importantly, Fordham is in New York City. It's right in the middle of the city, 50th, 60th Street. We have quite convenient to travel. Honestly, that was the reason, because I was working in New Jersey. And after knowing what it takes to get an H-1B, I did not want to let it go as easily. And I had tremendous support from my employer, who would allow me to leave like 30 minutes, 35 minutes, or sometimes an hour before, depending on where my lectures are, to travel to New York and attend my evening classes. So before even I started applying, I knew that I do not want to do full-time because I don't want to let go of my H-1B status. That was given. So I started exploring colleges that had part-time LLM options and good options. So I applied to multiple. I think NYU and Fordham were my highest priority. Only because they're good law schools, and at the same time the traveling for me was easier. With Fordham, sometimes if you are not from US and not from New York. It doesn't come in the Columbia, New York, NYU and all those lists, but within US, it has a good ranking. So the more I researched, I was like, okay, maybe Fordham offers much more capabilities for part-time LLMs. And I was surprised when I started, the part-time LLMs was not people like me, who were working full-time. Some people had families, some people had kids, and they were all trying to maybe switch a career or had done something and want to do more with their career. So it was a right fit, a right mindset of people who are in the same boat. And it was a great opportunity, honestly. Fordham was another, apart from GLC, Fordham was another game changer for me at this point.
So how is the application process usually for part-time LLMs? Are they different from the normal LLMs or the same process?
It's exactly the same. We go through LSAT, you get everything that is needed. It's just a matter of selecting part-time versus full-time. And I don't know whether there is like a selection on the form, part-time versus full-time. You just make sure that you take minimum credits. So when they talk about a full-time course, there is X number of credits that you have to take so that you qualify for it. But the minimum credit that you need to pass through the semester is what I did. And yeah, so I don't think there was a separate application per se. They advertise it as such that their lectures are throughout the day. There's an evening, there's early mornings. There were many things happening on weekends. So that actually, they developed their programs like that. And people who are studying here will know that it doesn't matter what program you take, if the subjects you choose, depending on when the classes are happening, where the classes are happening, you adjust your schedule. Sometimes it's during the weekend, sometimes it's early in the morning. So I think it was more of a managing your credit situation with a part-time. There was no specific that I was into a part-time program because I went through my orientation was with everybody else. I did not go through a separate orientation. So I took an off for that orientation during my work, and everything else was exactly the same. It's just after the orientation, you choose your subjects based on your availability.
That makes sense. And it's quite a wonderful way to help individuals like get their LLM degree as well as adjust to certain parts of life. I think it's quite a interesting scheme that is put into place. Right. So how was the academic environment at Fordham? Were there any courses or professors who had a particularly strong impact on you, or how was your journey overall?
Fordham, again, as I said earlier, Fordham was another game-changing experience. Again, when I entered Fordham, understand that I was coming from my corporate counsel job from India, did a little bit of stint while I was working as an immigration attorney. And at that point also, I was like, you never know, LLM can help me make this switch from immigration to maybe any other kind of law. So in Fordham, I took banking and securities law. I majored in banking and securities law. So, but what the eye-opener in Fordham for me was that except for LLM students are similar to us, mostly all coming from a different country and coming here and doing it. When I started my regular credits and I went into the regular classes, I was sitting with sometimes JD students or LLM students, depending on what subject I've taken. The diversity of the student in my class, where not everybody is the stereotypical student who is actually just studying. As I said, the class was mixed mothers, parents. There was this one time there that we had a contract law lecture and there was a child there, and I was wondering that I've never seen this in India. And I spoke to my person sitting next to me. We were friends, and she said that, you never know. She did not have any kind of a backup for a babysitter, so she got that's fine. We are all sitting, and it was like everybody was so inclusive. So it doesn't matter which stage of your legal career you are, and in that room everybody was there to maybe take it from one level to another, or maybe build it in a different way. And that opened my eyes, because I thought that gap of whatever 1 year, when you're so young, that few months you feel like, oh my god, you've lost so much of time. But when I came in Fordham and I figured it out that no, I've not lost any time. It's exactly the same kind of people. It's good to figure it out. It's good to take that break to understand what you want to do and then take that leap. So Fordham gave me that kind of a liberation in my mind. And the subject itself, the teaching, it's amazing. Fordham is at one of the great universities in New York City. The professors were great. I cannot pinpoint at one. Every professor, may it be legal writing, may it be even introduction to USL law. I did remedies, I did banking. Like every professor was amazing to me, and the kind of connect we had, sharing direct emails with them, chatting with them, sometimes going out with, even though with evening lectures, they would offer us like after the lectures, come out, let's have dinner. So a group of students might join them. So it was an amazing experience for them from education perspective, from overall personality development, from finding people of your own mindset. It was amazing.
Quite inclusive and very, it's quite amazing to hear about it. Personally, I wasn't aware that part-time LLMs were even a thing. So getting to know about it, something that is so encouraging, inclusive, and supportive, it's quite wonderful to know about it. So post LLM entering into your professional journey, I mean, you have already started out on it, but continuing with that, passing the NY New York bar, you transitioned to an immigration attorney lawyer at Fragomen. And today you serve as a senior associate attorney at Stelmakh Law and Associates. So could you share what your career journey was like and the challenges you have faced along the way, if any?
So career journey, the biggest challenge was the H-1B. It's just securing one, right? That we have already discussed, and I was able to find, and I had great supportive employers who were willing to assist me through this journey. Then the struggle between, oh, I have taken this Fordham law with banking and securities, but I'm practicing immigration. So there was a bit of a struggle trying to find out something which is aligning to maybe more corporate jobs. But the more I worked, while all of this hustling was happening on the side, but I continued my job because I was full-time employed on an H-1B, and there are restrictions in how many hours you work for H-1B. You cannot go under a certain number of hours. You cannot, otherwise I have to go back to the government asking for a revision of visa, which I just did not want. So I continued working in the immigration field. And the more and more I worked in the field, I figured I am helping people like me who are professionals, highly skilled, coming to the land of opportunities and trying to landed an opportunity and now trying to figure out how to navigate this immigration system, because now they have, by the time they have reached this land, sometimes it's a family unit. They're trying to making sure that the family is settled while they are trying to achieve their dreams. So in that, immigration plays a very important role. Timely filing of multiple visa petitions, multiple permanent residency petitions. It is a very important aspect for an immigrant family in US. And the more I worked in this field, I figured I want to continue this. While initially I was in that dilemma, but slowly, the more I worked while I was clerking with the boutique law firm, and then I also worked with another mid-sized law firm, again in the same law clerk position up until I passed my New York bar, and then Fragomen, and then now at Stelmakh. The journey of immigration taught me that maybe I'm helping people, as I said, similar to me. And then in between Fragomen and Stelmakh, I also spent a couple of years with removal defense, asylum, humanitarian immigration issues, which was another eye-opening experience. So the more I worked in immigration, I felt that I'm serving the community where I'm coming from, and I'm not talking just about India. I'm talking about immigrants generally. The US takes so many immigrants from across the world who are highly skilled, and sometimes they need humanitarian help. So, and many other issues with the current situation going on in the world, right? So this area then started feeling home, honestly. And now it just comes naturally, and I'm very passionate about the field now, as opposed to how I started it.
Hearing about your stint with humanitarian law, helping people, that's really, really cool. So you explored so many different facets of immigration law and learned so much about it. And at the same time, I think your Fordham degree was about banking. So that's quite amazing, exploring all the fields there possibly could be.
Yeah, you can say that because, as I said, I'm also the person who wants to be positive about, okay, fine, why is this field coming more to me? Why? And asking those questions and just doing more. And then after doing business immigration for so long, I was like, I cannot be an immigration attorney and call myself one without actually knowing and understanding the other side of immigration, which is the completely other side. Here you're dealing with very high skilled employees, sophisticated employees, organizations with sophisticated process. And the other end, it's total chaos. Like asking for a birth certificate is like a huge ask. They can't go back to their country, get so I wanted then when I started loving this part of immigration, the business immigration, I thought that I should also learn more about the other side of immigration so that I can call myself as a holistic immigration attorney who understands the entire process much better. Because as I said, I would have, if I would go back now, whatever, a few years back, and I think about my Fordham, I was like, life would have been easier if I would have just taken that flow and continued with my immigration journey, and I majored in immigration law. But it's okay. It's fine. And I've learned it on the job. So that's great.
Right. That's great. So, considering you're one of our unique guests when it comes to immigration law being such a niche field, but something that is growing and a huge requirement now in the US with the ongoing political situation. So, given your expertise in immigration law, the next set of questions that I'd be asking would be more focused towards navigating the US market, the visa applications, and all of that. So, one of the primary questions we had is what are the primary visa options available for students in the US, and how can they determine what the best fit is for their situation?
So there are obvious choices of course, H1B, where you have to go through the lottery and everything. But there are some other unexplored options, which might be an O1A, which is more like if you have found an employer who is willing to sponsor an H1B, and O1A can also be an option. But for O1A, one has to have a specific kind of a profile of a professional and academic level. And that is why I feel that immigration becomes a very important journey for any student, whether it be LLM or any other masters that or undergraduates in any student is coming here to complete. Because if you are aware that a certain kind of academic profile can lead you to a different kind of visa, which might not lead a lottery, you might as well work on it while you are studying and while you have those resources of a great law review journal or all these opportunities in your law school that is happening where you can participate and enhance that profile. So at this point, you can say H1B is the most popular choice. O1A can be one if a student does work in a specific way on their academic and professional profile. But while I say this, one has to be in touch with the immigration attorney or the DSO's office who can help them, guide them to what exactly they need to do. It's a long laundry list of things that an O1 needs. So I'm not saying it's easy, but most of the times LLM students that are coming after a rigorous law course in India. Sometimes they have worked. So they can build it up. They're already 40% there. It's just a matter of pushing them a little more in their academic and professional life to get to that O1. So definitely needs some close working with your immigration attorney. But apart from H1B, O1A can be an option on a non-immigrant front. And of course, there are other options about founders, like if you are, I don't know how many students do that, but investor kind of a visa where there's a startup or some kind of a situation. Again, these are very nuanced. I don't know whether a lot of students are in this category, but all I want to say is there are more options apart from H1B. So if you do not get selected in the lottery, and if you have worked hard on your profile for whatever time that you were here in US, you should explore others. And that's why even before you come to US for your LLM, start thinking about your immigration journey, whether you even want to stay, whether you don't want to stay. So if you ask those questions to yourself, maybe we'll have a better answer.
Plan in place, I think that should be something that should be kept in mind before coming forward into such a market where anything could happen at any time. So I myself, I was actually looking into the entire visa process because I was also applying to the undergrad before I came to
Correct.
India. But there were so many terms that were thrown in the air with regards to visa and everything. So could you help our listeners with the meaning of certain terms like certain terms I keep hearing?
Sure.
How much impact do they have? What exactly are they as a novice understanding?
Okay. So F1 would be your student visa, right? Which you are using to enter into the country and study a program in a US university. So your underlying visa is F1. But for F1 students, after they graduate, the US immigration law offers optional practical training program where they give you an employment authorization to work for a certain number of months, almost close to an year, for students, so that they can, because they've studied here, they get to work a little bit in the market. And it is during that time that most likely the person that you're working with on OPT really likes your work and they're like, fine, let me sponsor you. And they start working on the H-1B petitions or the lottery. So OPT is that, which is post-graduation kind of a practical training where US immigration law allows the student to utilize the studies that they have done in whatever 1 or 2 years in that 1 year to implement that in a practical environment with an employer. Again, that needs it is not automatic. It's not that you get an F1 and you will directly be in touch with your DSO, make sure that you have all the paperwork, make sure you're moving the papers along, and then you will have the OPT on time. The other things that you said was EAD, I believe. EAD is an employment authorization document that is linked to an OPT. So once your OPT gets granted after you do all the paperwork that is necessary, it gives you a card, which is called as employment authorization document, which will have validity, your name, a picture. It's more like a card that you can physically carry. So that's one of the terms that you mentioned. You mentioned CPT, I believe, curricular practical training. Now,
Yes.
CPT is a little unique concept. I don't know whether a lot of LLM students have this option, but CPT basically means while you are studying, not after you graduate, while you're studying, you are allowed to do some kind of a practical training and you can work within a certain, of course, there is a limitation on number of hours. You will have to make sure that it appears on your immigration documents, DSO files on your behalf. It's an I-20. I don't want to give you more terms to get confused. That's why I'm trying to keep it a little more generic. But CPT is an option that the college sometimes have. I do not remember any law school having that CPT, but if they do, all it means is from the day one of your enrollment, you have a possibility of working while you're studying. So that's a few of those common terms that they use. And apart from that, there's something called as STEM OPT for STEM related subjects, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. If you are into those subjects, the OPT that you get in the beginning gets extended by 17 more months. So it's 17 months is almost, so this is all close to 2.5 years that the person gets if you are in STEM degree. So in case after LLM there is management or you want to do some technology related courses, that is an optional too. Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much. I think that gives me a lot of clarity, a lot more than anything on the internet could. So thank you for that. So what steps should students take to maintain proper visa status, including compliance with work authorization rules and everything else?
So making sure that you are in touch with your DSO, make sure that all the documents that they need, you provide them in time, especially when you're studying I keep talking about DSO. DSO is in a US university perspective, designated school official. That's an official who is specifically handling international students and all your immigration queries and all the background document that is needed for your continuous F1 status and your EAD documents is what the DSO is working on. So making sure you provide the DSO whatever they need, be on top of it, make sure that you don't end up into any situation which might cause trouble with your student visa, any kind of violation of law, brushes with the law. On a primary perspective, this is the thing that a student has to do. Unless we face something very specific, then have your students contact me. Even if I don't have an answer, I will at least find them another immigration attorney who has an answer. So we will be able to help. So,
Right. So I think that would also cover what my next question could have been about. If there are issues such as visa denials or status violations, immediate actions I think would include obviously going to the DSO, approaching immigration lawyers like yourself. What other immediate actions can they take to resolve them if there are any more?
that would be the most important, because I would not take any action if anything adverse happened to your visa status or your situation in US. Do not take actions without consulting your immigration attorney or your DSO, and having a good immigration attorney by your side helps. Sometimes there are nonprofits as well who are around, depending on which city where you are. So while you are still studying, keep an eye out for these kind of nonprofits who might help you, because reaching an immigration attorney, if it is difficult during that time, somebody can help you there, like a Safe Passage Project or ACLU, and I'm sure locally within the college there would be something. The DSO is a great resource. The DSO can also connect you to the immigration attorneys of either the college or maybe has some references, and reach out to Project. They will have some list of attorneys that can help you too. So I would not take any, if something adverse has to happen to your status, do not take action without speaking to some experts is my major, yeah.
Right. So you had mentioned earlier how it's important to have a long-term plan in place before coming to the US, going or pursuing an LLM there. Now, let's say a student does aim to secure long-term work opportunities in the US. What steps should they take during their LLM to enhance their academic and professional profile?
Yeah. So when I said that one has to have a long-term plan, I meant that if you are planning to come here and maybe settle down here or maybe explore permanent green card options, it is better to work on it either while you're studying or even when you are applying. So when I mentioned earlier in our discussion, I did mention about the O1A visa. Again, O1A visa is for high-skilled, extraordinary individual who has achieved a certain significance in their own field. And then there are criterias which qualify you for that kind of visa. Some of those criterias are scholarly publications and major trade in publications which is relevant in your field. So contributing to your law journals, whether you are in India or here, making those, make sure that you are contributing those journals, and some kind of speaking arrangements, or even writing for any other legal blogs or any other student blogs or any other thing that relates to our field of law, which enhances your academic profile. Again, as I said, it's not simple. It's not a very simple visa. It goes through certain scrutiny. And if you are thinking about developing your profile for an O1A and eventually a green card based on something like this, it would need close guidance from an immigration attorney. So, and read about it. It is all there on the government's website. I can send you some links if your students need, that they can read to understand what these criteria are, and then we can help. But making sure that academically we are doing good, and not just in the subject, doing that extracurricular, participating in that moot, which I think everybody tells you while you are studying, but while everybody is telling you from your own academic perspective, landing a job, but I think it will also help you in building your profile, in your academic and professional profile, to secure a visa. First of all, a visa to work, and then maybe a permanent green card based on if you continue doing that kind of work. So my point would be that there are options apart from H1B and your regular path of long-winded path of an immigration green card process. But if we start working a little more on our academic profile while we are in India and while we continue our journey in US, maybe you might be in a better position to land yourself a green card quicker than the other immigrant community.
I think that's some great advice. Are there any specific advice you could give with regards to what they can do while they're still in India to position themselves for academic and professional success in the US in general?
Sure. While you're in India, while you're studying, do all these law review journals, do participate in your moot court competitions, do all these academic extracurricular that I'm sure every law school offers at this day. So I would say writing more, to contributing more towards the articles or journals, that gives you a great head start when even while you're in India. So there is this, apart from O1 is a non-immigrant visa. When I say non-immigrant, that means it's a temporary visa which is valid for a certain time, and you have to keep extending it depending on how much term you got. But what happens next is, in case you want to go ahead and now decide that, oh, you want to live here for a longer period and you want permanent residency, and that's when you go into an extraordinary ability immigrant visa, which is higher preferred green card application, which is a continuance of almost an O1 criteria, but a little more higher, or maybe a little more work is needed towards that EB. But it is a continuation of your profile from an O1 to an EB1A. That's like a natural progression. So one of the criteria of an EB1A is a sustained acclaim that the person has. And the fact that even before you came to US, you were this person academically, you came to US, you continued your journey academically, not just on your studies, but contributing to the field generally, right, by writing these articles and doing many other things that, as we discussed, also gives the government that, okay, this person is not doing this only for a green card. This person has worked hard throughout his life, and that he is really a person of extraordinary ability, which we truly are, right? Most of them are doing it. I'm not asking anybody to do anything which they don't do generally. Law schools and law students are always writing, contributing, participating, like that's what they're doing. So we are not trying to do anything that we generally don't do. All we are trying to do is make sure that when we are doing it, while there is an academic angle to it and a professional angle to it, and if you are willing to immigrate to another country, have an immigration angle to it as well. Make sure you document it. Don't tell me that, oh, I wrote an article, but I can't find it. Don't do that.
So thank you so much for that great advice. I think you've given. So basically, what needs to be done is everyone continues hustling and grinding on their law school journey and portraying themselves and also presenting themselves out there, not just getting these achievements and having them under your sleeve. You should also let the world know that you're doing all of this and make it aware. So I think that helps your chances with the US.
Yeah, definitely. And it is not, as I said, we are not trying to reinvent the wheel here. All the law students are doing this in different capacities. It's just that while now you're doing it, you also look at it from an immigration angle in addition to your academic and professional angle.
That makes sense. So with this, we reach our last and final question. Given the various immigration challenges, what would be your most important piece of advice for those considering in the US?
So my advice would not be about anything about academics, because it is very personal what they want to do, what is the subject that they are choosing, what is the path that they are choosing. It's all fine. The fact that you have decided to take this journey from one country to another to pursue your passion, itself is a great deal. So there's no advice there. But if you are going to any other country, think about the immigration aspects. Think about what you cannot do as a student in the country. What are your options after you're graduating? What are your plans pertaining to this further studies that you have embarked this journey on? Like, is it a short-term plan? It's a long-term plan. So think on all those angles, read about it. We are now in an age where a lot of this information is still there available. So while you're thinking about your academic, professional journey, think about when you move to the other country, what are the other restrictions that one may face? Immigration is a very, very important part at this point, not only just in US, if you're planning in any other country. Every country has their own set of immigration laws telling you what to do, what not to do as a student, making sure we are aware, making sure we understand what happens next. How do we start preparing for the next steps while you're 2 steps before? So it is a journey where, just like how you are planning your academics, this cannot happen one day that you decide, oh, now I think I have to apply for my visa, and that is the day that you start. No, it's it has to be done parallelly. It should be done parallelly so that it's a smoother ride for you and so that you can achieve things that you really wanted to achieve with this transition. And immigration and visa issues are not a barrier in that, when you are able to smoothly go on your professional journey.
Great. I think that's some genuinely great advice, something that people should definitely keep in mind. And with that, we come to an end of this podcast. Thank you again so much for all of your incredible suggestions, advice. I'm sure students would love to reach out to you. Hopefully no dispute arises, but if there's something does happen, I'm sure you'd be available and present for them. Your journey, like I've mentioned before, quite inspiring. Amazing how you had to explore so many arenas within law, have such a holistic experience. But thank you again for joining us on this podcast.
Thank you, Riya. Thank you so much for having me. You guys already have my number. If your students have any issues, please feel free to reach out. The topics that we have discussed, if they really want to discuss about how to build that profile, all of that, feel free to reach out. And I'm so happy that there is something called Project LLM who is doing this great work. I don't know where you guys were 10, 11 years back when I was doing this. So I am sure a Project LLM in my life at that point in time would have given me more broader understanding of what it entails to do masters from a different country apart from the academics of it. So great, you guys are doing great. I do follow all your work. It's an amazing journey that you're having, and in future, if Project LLM, your students, anybody need anything, I'm here.
Thank you so much.
With whatever I can little contribute.
No, of course. Thank you so much. And to our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you liked today's episode as much as I did. And keep tuning in to Brief Encounters. See you next time.